I thought I knew what my podcast was going to be about as far as a theme, but I'm pretty sure it's going to evolve, and because it's been really fun, the conversations I've had so far.
Yeah.
Actually, all three people in the beginning, they were like, "So, okay, seriously, can I swear on this? Is this what kind of platform is this?" And I'm like, "You can say whatever you want."
What kind of a platform is this?
Say all the things.
What has been your favorite moment so far from the first three that you've done?
Ooh, great question. My favorite moment has been the ending statements where someone's just like, I legit got upset at thinking about the answer to your question. Was I red in the face? And then my response is yes, yes, you were. I
Yeah.
saw you turn, steam was coming out of your ears, and that's what I wanted. So thanks for being raw and giving it to me.
I love that.
I want
Now
people to get
what a good
upset.
teaser reel. I feel like now I want to listen to that one.
Hello, beautiful soul. It's Meka of SpiderMeka Portraits. Ever felt like your voice was stuck? After my third surgery threatened my voice in 2023, I decided silence no longer suited me, and I was done feeling like I couldn't move forward because my idea of success felt so far removed. So I launched Dreams of Silk, your personal and professional journey podcast. Join me as we unravel life's threads together. Expect candid discussions, laughter, and learning, all so we can infuse a little more ease into your life. Something smooth, something strong, shimmering, and seductive, just like spider silk. As an internationally recognized portrait and branding photographer, speaker, and storyteller based in Chicago, I empower women to embrace their natural selves and transform toxic narratives. For entrepreneurs and small businesses, I create captivating visuals that demand attention. Explore my work at SpiderMeka.com. Follow the Spider on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest. Subscribe for more.
You are my fourth ever hosted podcast recording, so welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be fourth.
Justine Beauregard has been a sales coach and trainer since 2008, helping nearly 600 small businesses and entrepreneurs increase their income by up to 2,300% in ways that feel good to them. She's known for helping people create exceptionally clear and compelling sales messaging and an effortless sales process that gets results fast. She's also the host of People Over Profit podcast, a top-ranked show for business owners and entrepreneurs seeking to grow with less effort. Welcome, Justine.
Thank you for having me. So good to be here.
You're so very welcome. If I'm not mistaken, you have actually just won an award for your podcast. Am I right?
I actually won an award. I was nominated for Best Podcast. I was also nominated for Best Business Coach, and I won the Best Business Coach award. Someone else won the podcasting award.
Someone
Who
else.
has a fabulous podcast, by the way.
You're very kind. So you're in Boston. You're hailing from Boston. Am I right about that?
Boston area. I live in New Hampshire now, but I have family I'm from Massachusetts and I have family from Boston itself. So yes, we've slowly been migrating up the coast.
I'm still waiting for the Boston accent, you know.
I know. Well, see me with one of my aunts and then it'll all come out. But usually it's one of those things. I have traveled so much over the course of my life and I've met so many people and I've done so many different like speaking engagements and things that every time I meet someone, they always go, "Where are you from? I can't tell." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm from Boston." They go, "What?" And I go, "Yeah, I park my car just like everyone else."
Oh, there it is. you're an extraordinaire. The speaking, the business coaching, the podcasting. You speak all the time. You do all the things. What's the 60-second version of your origin story?
The 60-second version is that I feel like I was born to be a business owner. I, from a very young age, was fascinated by business. I grew up with a single mom, and my maternal grandmother was a serial entrepreneur. She was one of the founding women in electronics, and she ran her own company with 5 children and had real estate investments and did all sorts of things while my grandfather was home. And it was very uncharacteristic of the time. And when I was little, my mom used to take me to work with her because she was a single mom and she had to do what she had to do. So
Yeah.
I would be in the office with her. And actually, my aunt, who is Japanese, was running another electronics company. And so surrounded by women who were powerhouses, who just had these incredible businesses, or, worked for women who were powerhouses and ran incredible businesses. And I have this vivid memory when I was young of there was this room in my aunt's building in her office, and I would sit in there for hours because there were just all these business books and they were color coded. So, you know how people have those gorgeous bookshelves that just go from yellows to pinks and blues and all the things. And she would
Uh-huh.
have notepads and pens. And I would just sit in there and I would take agenda meeting notes and like come up with all sorts of ideas for businesses. And I laminated business cards in there, and I would sell all sorts of things as a child. In fact, my dad brought me to Aruba for my high school graduation as my gift. He gave me the option of
Oh, wow.
money towards school or a trip and quality time. And that's my love language, is quality time. So we went to Aruba, and I brought 30 pairs of earrings that I had made and sold all of them while I was on vacation.
What? How old were you? 16, 17, 18?
I was 17, so I had just
Yeah.
graduated from high school, and I was a little bit young for graduation, but I was, going on this trip, and I just thought everywhere is an opportunity to sell. Of course, people want earrings while they're in Aruba. Why wouldn't they? And I sold them to staff members, and I sold them to travelers and all sorts of things. And my dad was like, "Of course you brought your own jewelry to sell on this trip. Like, why would I expect anything else?" It was a hobby for me that allowed me to just get out there and practice my sales skills and learn how to do what I do now for, lots of people, which is fun.
I was just going to ask, how did we go from Aruba hobbyist into coaching other people in their livelihoods as adults?
Yeah. Well, the next evolution of that story is really that I got sucked into the whole corporate marketing life for 8 years and just
I love
believe.
that language. We have to pause here. It's the sucking
Sucked
into the
in.
corporate world. Yeah, I feel like that's a very overall theme for a lot of people.
Mm.
So thank you for highlighting and using such, great language. Please continue.
Yes. And you know what? There's a book by Seth Godin called Lynchpin. And on one of the first few pages of that book, he says, we have been brainwashed and manipulated and sold this idea that we need to be cogs in a wheel, which is corporate America. And it is utterly false, essentially.
Yeah.
And I remember, like, even now, recounting that to you, I have chills saying it, because you go to school, and the first question anyone asks, I have I have 2 kids, and my kids are school aged, and my son is 8. And every time people meet him for the first time, or we go to a school event or something, an adult will walk up to him and say, "Oh, hi, what's your name?" And a little bit of small talk. And then the first real question they ask him is, "What do you want to be when you grow up?"
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And I always think, he's 8. How does he know? It's rare that I knew,
Yeah.
to a certain extent, right? But that's like, And I understand the premise of the question. It's seeing what they're interested in, and it's making conversation, and it's fun to talk about. But I think there's too much in our education system that's surrounded by career choice and job and all of these things from a very young age. And we're programmed. Even the other day, I'm doing a speaking event at a college that's local to me. They're actually a rival to the university that I went to, which is kind of funny. And when I was talking to someone about that, who's a graduate of the university that I went to, we both graduated from there. I had mentioned this to her, and she said, I went to the same school you did, and as you know, the culture of the school was get a job, get a job, get a job, get a job, work for a company, you got to work for someone else. There was nothing about entrepreneurship, and it was just drilled into us. And when she said that, it made me pause because I'm like, I'm so far removed. I mean, I've been out of college for many years, and
Mhm.
thinking about that, it was just like, you're very much right. Like a lot of the classes were centered on how do we prepare you for a job. It wasn't how do we prepare you to critically think or problem solve or communicate effectively or have financial literacy or any of the things that are really critical skills for a human being to learn, let alone an employee. It's
Yeah.
just how do we prepare you for a job? And so thinking about my son being asked this question, and I always say, like, answer it, see how you feel in the moment. But I never say to my kids, like, what's your favorite color? I always say, what's your favorite color today? What's your favorite
Huh.
subject today? Just asking them, like, what are you feeling into in this moment?
Mm.
Versus, like, you don't have to decide that blue is your favorite color from now until the end of time. Like, we get to pick. And in fact, it's almost trained them. So every time they go, hmm, today I really love green. And I'm like, ooh, tell me about that. Why do you love green? What's something green that you love? And we'll get into this really long conversation about color. And my friends listen to me parent my children.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I love how you get curious with them and say the questions that other people are asking, but in a slightly different way that leads them down a different path. And so this is a really ADHD response to your question, by the way.
I'm loving every bit of it.
But it all comes back to, this next evolution was being sucked into the corporate world, doing that for 8 years, and then really thinking, if I could do this for somebody else, why can't I do it for myself? And I'd always wanted to have my own business. But I think the catalyst was really getting pregnant with my first child and wanting something for myself and realizing that a job was not my only purpose in this life, and that I could have both things. I could have a career and I could have a family, and I could balance those in whatever way I wanted to, whatever that looked like. And my husband was very supportive, and he said, "Why don't you start your own company?" And I was like, I never thought to do that this young. I thought I would be in my 50s when I did that, not in my 30s. And so it sort of changed how I thought about everything, really. I was dismantling all these systems that had been built up in my mind for what I had to do and in what order. And even with my own company, so I started that in 2014. I LLC'd in 2015. And it really kind of took off from there, multiple evolutions, understanding that business didn't have to be one size fits all. I started off as a consulting agency, and I didn't love the way things were going because I had trouble. I was getting a lot of referrals, and I was having trouble kind of managing demand. A lot of my clients were asking, how do you do what you do? I want to pick your brain. I want to understand. And that's really where coaching came about. Coaching wasn't an industry like it is today back then.
Oh my
And
gosh, yeah.
so, yeah, it just sort of naturally happened where I was giving these strategy sessions and pick your brain calls to some of my clients. And then the more I did it, the more I'd talk about it, and confirmation bias, right? I'm putting it out
Mhm.
there, and then people are asking for it. And as soon as I knew it, all of my clients were coaching clients essentially. And so
Yeah.
my brand has sort of naturally evolved, and I've just leaned in and allowed it to be what it is, like a living organism, just you grow how you want to, and I'm just here to support you and feed you and make sure that you're okay and nurtured and cared for, and it's done all the things that it's needed to do.
So I love your ADHD answer to all that. I appreciate that. Thank you. One of the other things that I love about every time I've met with you so far, and of course, I've been listening to your podcast. You're such an inspiration. I love that your episodes are so short
Thank
and to the point and very, here's what you do, and let's get out of there. Enjoy the rest of your dinner time or whatever. I think you make things very digestible, very simplified. We're going to come back to that word, but let's go back to growth, especially because that's something that you mentioned before. I love your theme that you're helping people to recognize that where they are in this moment is beautiful and okay, and helping them understand that things can evolve, things can grow. You kind of told us the genesis of that, or the application of that, even with your own children, asking your children very simply, how are you feeling today? What's your favorite color today? I love the simplicity of that. It sets them up in ways that I didn't even think about before. I'm constantly telling children and adults too, because we need to hear it. And even in our adult lives, the thing that I say quite often is nothing is set in stone.
Mm.
You can always change your mind. And I feel like we forget that a lot especially when we're making really heavy decisions, things that are life altering, because we feel like, okay, the choice that we make right now, it's going to affect my future and I can't get out of this. And we have nightmares when we go to sleep, and we have sweats and panic attacks because we feel like the choice that we make has to be the right one. You know what? It's right now, and it's okay that things change.
It's so funny because I was watching an episode of Queer Eye,
Love
and
that show.
I love that show. I love Karamo. And
Yeah.
so for those of you who don't watch that show, Karamo is the culture expert. So mostly like a life coach for all the people that are going through these big transitions is essentially
Yeah.
his role. Actually, it was an episode about a woman who was a mom who was doing everything. She was like super mom, and her husband had been diagnosed with ALS a few years prior. And the diagnosis is essentially 2 to 6 years is the average lifespan of somebody who's been diagnosed with ALS officially. And it had been 8 years since he'd been diagnosed. And so she was living in this, well, two things. She was living in the fear of the future, right? We don't know if he's going to survive this. We don't know how much time we have left with him. So there's this like obsessive thought pattern that's going to the future. And then this lust for the past. Remember when? Remember when you could move freely? Remember when your joints didn't hurt? Remember when we went on that vacation? And so her present was being sacrificed. And the whole purpose of Karamo's time with this woman was to show her that the present is all you can focus on. Like, be here in this
Yeah.
moment. Appreciate that you have a husband who is alive and with you and able to spend time with you, whatever that looks like. And tomorrow isn't promised, and yesterday already occurred. So, like, we need to live in this moment. And at the end of the episode, she said, the greatest gift that I received was my time with Karamo, recognizing that I was not living in the present, and that the reason I was being super mom and trying to do everything for everybody was because I was so afraid that as my daughters grew up, they would realize they didn't need me anymore, that they could cook their own meals, that they could buy their own home, that they could have their own life, that they could do all of those things. And I want to feel needed. But at the same time, my husband needs me so much that I'm not giving myself any me time, which is also challenging. And I think it's such a relatable episode and such a relatable story. So actually, if you wouldn't mind me
Yeah.
asking you a question,
Oh my gosh. Okay.
why
Sure.
why do you think so many people kind of obsess over these things? Why do you think, like, the comment that you made earlier about it's so hard to make a decision because you feel like it's going to be stuck on you for the rest of your life, that you're saddled with your decision, which feels like a lot of weight and pressure? Like, is it the thought that life, if everything is possible, then it's overwhelming to people and they don't know what to do? Is it this fear that they're going to make the wrong choice and they won't know how to get out of it? Like, what do you think is the driver for people to not just decide and allow their life to unfold naturally as it will?
I feel like when people are faced with a time to make a decision, things start to close in, things that we don't typically think about, things that we're not called on to think about until decision making time is had. I feel like all of a sudden that's where the overwhelm comes into play. It's because we've kind of been going along, do within our own present lives. Because believe it or not, I feel like there are lots of us who are very used to being in the present, thinking about the right now.
Mm.
And then when it comes time for a decision, then the past creeps up. I've made decisions in the past that haven't gone right. Do I want to make this same quote unquote mistake again? And then they
Mm.
think about the future. Oh my gosh, whatever I just say and do right now is going to dictate, change, completely transform whatever was coming to me in the future. So I better make the right decision now because I've been missing out in the past and I don't want to miss out in the future. So it makes a huge difference what I'm, chained to right now. And I feel like that's where the pressure and the stressors come in. It kind of gets hard to feel like you're legitimately in control of the here and now that will dictate your future and your comfort zone, everything else that's going to happen to you. It's a little domino effect, and we all want the dominoes to lay perfectly down and go the right way. And so it
Okay.
becomes a huge thing.
I love everything that you just said, except I have one small tweak.
Let's hear it.
I think, to your point, people are not focused too much actively on the past or the future until they're put into a game time decision type circumstance. And then it kind of gives you that 500-foot view and you're forced to reflect on those things. But
Yeah.
what I don't know that I agree with is that everybody is, or like many people are focused on the present. I actually think nobody focuses on the present. They live in a pattern of habit. They just go through the
Yeah.
motions.
Yeah.
There is no presence of the
Mm.
present. It is just like I wake up, I go to work, I eat these foods, I go to sleep, I wake up, I repeat. And then the weekend comes and I see a friend or a family member and then I rinse, repeat. And it's like we live in these kind of just, and I don't want to call it the wrong name, but I'll describe it as it's been described to me many times.
Yeah.
This zombie lifestyle where we just
Oh.
go through life like zombies, just like half asleep, going through
Mm-hmm.
the motions, doing the things that we're used to doing. And the minute we're forced to make a decision about something, it's like someone snaps us out of the zombie state. And suddenly it's like the whole world is getting thrown at you.
That's a very good distinction. Going through motions, being in the zombie atmosphere versus actually being present. So when we're asked to make a decision, that's the moment of, okay, no, you have to be present now. And that's
Right.
something that we're not used to doing. I like it. Totally agree. Thanks for the tweak.
Yes. And
Yes.
another thing that you said, when I go to a restaurant and there's 19 things on the menu that I want, and I say, I definitely don't want the lasagna today, I could still choose from 18 other options on the menu, which is what people like to have choices. As you said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
you like to have choices. The minute I say, I want the lasagna, I'm saying no to 18 other incredible meals that are
Mm-hmm.
presented to me on that menu. So every time we say no to something, we have the option of saying yes to all the other things. But every time we say yes, we've shut off access to all the other options. And I think when we're forced to make decisions or when we're faced with a decision, we are put in a place where we have to
Mm-hmm.
say literally no to every other thing but the one thing that we decide. And I think for a lot of people, That's a hard choice to make. What if
Mm-hmm.
I say yes to this job and then I'm offered my dream job in a month? Right? What if I say yes to this person and I meet the love of my life 6 years from now? What if I say yes to this vacation and I could have invested that money back into my business and grown to $10 million by making that one decision? It's all these hypothetical missed opportunities. But the
Mm-hmm.
truth is, and I believe the Irish proverb, which is what's meant for you always is, and that you will always end up choosing the thing that you're meant to have. And so, yes, in some cases, like the vacation, you might not ever get to see what your $10 million business life looks like in that way. But if you really believed that your business was supposed to generate $10 million, you don't think you'd find another way? You would absolutely find it, right? If you really did meet someone 6 years after you got married that was meant to be your partner, you really don't think that you would just separate from your partner and go be with the person you were meant to be with? Like,
Yeah.
we live a free will.
We could play the what if game, but I love that because I'm kind of in my chair, like itching for you to like everything that you're saying is wonderful, but you actually said what is also truly, truly important to remember, which is the decision making value. Like when it comes down to it, things like who am I going to get married to? What kind of job am I going to have? Really life changing opportunities, life altering circumstances. That is when you listen to your body and your intuition. It's not that you're ruining your life by choosing one thing because your intuition is valuable. And the moment you pause to listen and breathe and actually be present and look at all your options, you're not guided to do something that's going to make you fall on your face and it's going to end up being a huge horrible mistake. We all have done things where we try not to regret it, but for the most part you will be led and guided to the thing that is meant for you, and the thing that is meant for you will find you. And you're nodding, Justine, so you know this to be true too.
Yes, it is true. And
Yes.
so I love the band Rush. Okay. They have a song called Limelight. And one of the lyrics of this song is, if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. And I think that's what a lot of people also forget, is that
Mm-hmm.
the indecision is deciding to not decide when it comes to running a business, right? And that we both have businesses of our own, is thinking about all the ways in which you could grow, in which you could sell, in which you could market, in which you could brand. And every time you make a choice to not make a choice effectively,
Mm-hmm.
you're sabotaging your own success. Like every time you say, I don't know what to send my audience for an email, so you don't send an email, you're missing opportunities to connect, to further your relationship, to sell them something that they're actively looking for and needing. Every time you're too afraid to show up, to step out, when you said very early on in this episode, you're doing all the things, you're speaking, you have a business, you do all these things. Because I effectively choose, I decide more often than I don't decide, because decisions are not made with time. They're not even made with more information. They're made in an instant if we allow them to be made in the instant. And so every time something is presented to me, I'm always thinking, what's my simplest path forward? To that word that you highlighted earlier, the simplest. I'm
Simplicity.
looking for
Yeah.
the simplest. I'm like, what can I do? What's the simplest way? Because I want to act on this thing. And so I follow the guideline, and I teach all of my clients this guideline of good, better, best. You might not be at the best, right? But you might be at good, and that's good enough, right? We need to
Mm-hmm.
sometimes grab those low-hanging fruit off the tree to have something to eat until we find the ladder to get to the really juicy fruit at the top. Because if we don't eat, we won't sustain ourselves to be able to find the ladder to get to the top. And so we have to make those choices. That's my belief. is that we have to keep moving forward. We have to keep decision making. That's why I raise my kids the way I do, because I want them to decide. I don't ever want them to get to a place in their life. I don't want this to happen to anybody, but especially my own children, when
Yeah.
they're faced with a tough decision and they think it's too much. I can't make it. I can't choose. I can't decide. I want them to feel empowered to say, I'm going to choose this for now, and I'm going to do this, this, and this, and I'm going to know my options, and they're going to think critically, and they're going to problem solve, and they're going to trust themselves. And building these muscles is how we live our best life. If we just wander around like those zombies from earlier and we never make choices, what are we doing here?
Oh, the zombie analogy bothers me so much. I mean, it's so true, but I have an irrational fear of zombie. And it's exactly because of the essence of this conversation. It's because it's that sort of I don't have a brain muscle to speak of. I'm just
Mhm.
here, just walking, not experiencing life, not being present. That was always like the metaphor for the worst kind of life possible for me. As my darling likes to say, when it comes to making a decision, what if I can get a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B? Like that's the phrase he likes to use. A little bit
Okay.
of each. What do I have for lunch? Do I have a pizza or a salad? Margarita pizza sounds good. It's a salad on top of a pizza. Let's
There
do
you
that. You
go.
know,
Why not
I
both?
feel,
That's another thing, the either
why
or
not
versus
both?
the both and. Yeah, you can have
The
it
both
all.
and the yes and it's like do something and then you'll know for a certainty whether or not this choice was good or bad, and then you can make another choice. The good news is you get to live another day and make a new decision. So yeah, I feel like we've already touched on some things because you didn't get exactly red in the face, but I do want to ask you before we go, what is something that just bothers you to no end, gets your gold, and you wish people would know?
Hmm. It's so funny. I used to describe myself as this person. I'm just not easily bothered by a lot of things because I'm like, I don't care about a lot, and in like the
I think
best
that's another
way.
reason why I like being your friend.
In the best way though. Like there's always I'm an eternal optimist, which doesn't mean that I don't have this, view of the world that can sometimes be a little more on the realist or the pessimistic side about certain things, but I believe that everything works out as it should always. I think the future is bright. And so when it comes to these things, in which from a branding perspective, a lot of people are like, you've got to stand for things and be polarizing and all of this kind of language around branding. And I was just always like, why can't we just talk about the things that light us up? Why can't we just focus on like those good things instead of like what bothers you, what excites you, what brings you joy? Like that's where my mind goes. So when you ask that question, I'm like, oh, I'm sure things bother me. But there's just like, I don't know. I did a post the other day on Instagram about how nothing bothers me more. It's such a mild, bothersome thing too. You'll laugh
Uh,
when I say it. Nothing bothers me more than when people start a follow-up email with, hey, just checking in. It's
I
like,
think I did see your post about that.
oh, it really, it really irks me because
Yes.
there's two different reasons why. The first reason is because it's so not creative. So when you're trying to stand out, and from a branding perspective, you can appreciate this. When everyone and their brother sends an email that says, hey, just checking in, you're like, okay, and the other reason is because it's completely self-serving, right? I'm checking in because I need to know something. I want something. I need whatever. It's me, 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 which is not
Mhm.
my approach to selling or life in general.
Mhm.
So I prefer to see something that's a little more creative, that's a little more action oriented. So in terms of simple, to me, that's fluff. So I always try to keep it really focused on the next step. So when I reach back out to someone, as an example, if you're sending an email to follow up with someone on a branding shoot, they were going to book one, they didn't have time, something happened, whatever, and you haven't heard from them and it's been a week or something like that. Instead of saying, hey, just checking in, whatever comes after that becomes the first line. So usually we already have it written, right? Hey, just checking in. Did you get a chance to, find time on your calendar for that brand? Just start with the did you get a chance, right? I loved our conversation on such and such a date and, your thoughts about your brand and these soft colors and ways we could incorporate them. It just had me really inspired. And it just had me thinking about next steps. What are your thoughts on getting started on this date? Like, it's so much more centered on them, which to me is the best approach. And it also stands out when you say something personal or give a compliment or lead with a really direct question so that you're not wasting their time. And I think it's important to know the person that you're sending that message to. Is this someone who likes the more personal touch? Is this someone whose love language is affirmations or, positive language? Is this somebody who really is just getting to the point and needs the details and wants to move forward? How do I best serve them? And so I live by something called the platinum rule. Treat others the way they want to be treated, not the way you want to be treated. Would you prefer for me to just send you a quick one-liner, or, would you like me to touch base about some of the elements of the conversation? What would feel good to you? And there's no harm in asking.
I think it's really important to just remind people that we don't always have to have all the answers. A lot is asked from us in the beginning, right out of the gate. When you say, I'm going to be a business owner, you're immediately going to wear all the hats, you're going to do all the things, make all the decisions, have all their overwhelm, be stretched for time, spread like thin butter on a piece of toast. You've got a lot of road ahead for you. For someone to say, actually, you don't have to know everything at this point. You can collaborate. You can let your clients know that you're in this with them, and to ask for their help and advice and to help you make some of these decisions along the way. I think that's a pretty radical idea for a lot of people to hear, that it's okay to ask the people that are paying you to service them, to ask them what they want.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those moments where you get to build trust and authentically relate, which are two very critical sales skills, but not just for selling. It's also life skills, right? You need to be able to relate to the people that you're talking to. You need to be real with them. I think so many times we try to be everything to everyone. We try to have all the answers. We try to appeal to, people, or by looking like we are the authority. And there's nothing that says you can't be an authority and not have all the answers. And even then, I have an answer, but I just want to verify that it's the best answer for this dynamic, for this relationship. And that always feels really good to be the person who's like, you have a choice here. It's okay. You don't need to be like everybody else.
There is so much power in the ask.
And you know what? I think the reason people fear the ask is because they fear the no. If I ask, they'll say no. But the truth is, even if you don't ask, they can still say no. Right? What is it? A Rumi quote? 99.9% of the things that we'll fear never come to fruition.
You have dropped so many delicious gold nuggets in our plates this afternoon. Tell us one more time where we can find you.
You can find me, People Over Profit, the podcast, or JustineBeauregard.com. And I believe you said that would be in the show notes. So anyone can go there after.
And please do go there after. This is the real deal when it comes to all things sales and all things making it easy to be a rock star in your business. Thanks, Justine.
Thank you.
If you learned some things or were inspired by this episode, tap that subscribe button now and never miss a thread. I am Meka, internationally recognized portrait and branding photographer, consultant, and speaker based in Chicago. The Streams of Silk podcast is for small business owners and their friends wanting to elevate their life experience. Follow the spider and keep listening for more ways to find connection in the chaos.